Here we go. You ready, NJ?
If I turn on the microphone.
Okay, everybody's mic'd up. So what we wanted to do with this one was really kind of pick up on some of the conversations from the opening session where Casey and Valerie and Barbara joined us. And you know, we kind of started talking a little bit about some of the marketing alignment that was necessary. So we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into here. But I also wanted to kind of pick up on what Michelle closed the last session with. She's like, don't build something in a market if the people there don't know who you are and what your brand is. So really what we want to talk about here is how are people building brands, not just potentially the way we've been doing it up until recent years, you know, putting a lot of cheap capital into performance marketing and just kind of driving that performance marketing engine. Well, the cheap money's kind of gone away. And so now what we're seeing is there's much more of a blend of customer engagement, consumer engagement through different channels, through different activations, really looking at how we're blending the marketing channels together. So what I wanted to do today was just let NJ say hello, and then we'll have Heather say hello, and then Colleen is going to wrap up the introductions, but then we're going to go into Colleen's story. It's a very interesting story. We'll be talking about how she's bringing her brand into new markets, but from a wholesale first perspective, which is something that we haven't really traditionally talked about at GELF. Again, to my point earlier today, it's often been how e-commerce is the tip of the spear, but that's not always the way it works. So NJ in town for the opening of
Our new flagship store is 75 Prince Street, but it doesn't open till November 8th.
Oh, okay. So I can't tell
I'm
people
in
to
store
go. All right.
to have dirty sneakers, and our sneakers are washable, so that's amazing, and vegan. So that's a little plug for us. But if you don't know APL, we are the innovator and pioneer of the luxury performance category in men's and women's athletic footwear. We were founded in 2009, and our first product came out in 2010 with our Concept One basketball shoe with our load and launch technology that propels you up to 3.5 inches higher. And the most amazing thing happened, the NBA banned us. We became the #1 story in the world, 17th most searched Google term, and we were on the map and on our way. And then in 2014, we launched our men's and women's running shoe line, and it's been incredible since then. And our 3 distribution channels are DTC, so e-com, luxury wholesalers, and now we have our flagship store in Los Angeles and our New York flagship store, again, 75 Prince Street, opening soon.
All right. So international is still relatively early for you guys, but where are you guys active internationally? What are the big markets, and you know, whatever you can share on the roadmap ahead as well?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, when we went into wholesale, thank you very much, Saks Fifth Avenue and Net-a-Porter and Mr. Porter. I mean, we launched there in 2014 when we started our wholesale channels with select luxury retailers around the world. And then we, through Global E, and we started with Flow and then switched as part when Global E bought them. So now we sell globally to over 140 countries on their platform. So that started over 4 years ago. And then our retail stores, which are great in terms of attracting international consumers, especially tourists, as at the Grove has more traffic every day than Disney World. And so people come into our stores. And so we're doing 3 channels, and that's really helping us across the board.
So tourists that want to jump higher.
They want to jump higher, but I think they also obviously buy us because our designs and our product has so much innovation and performance.
All right, Heather has been probably here earlier, maybe even spoke before Michelle. So Heather, welcome back. I think it was like our second GELF New York that you joined us. So
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with My Teresa, where you guys sell, and it's kind of, again, a little bit of a different story than we normally feature at GELF, but great to have you back.
Thanks for having me. So how many of you know what My Teresa is? Okay.
Not bad.
That's actually quite awesome. So My Teresa is an e-commerce platform that has the finest edit in luxury. We're actually the reverse of many people you hear about today. We're located in Munich, Germany, and the business is huge in Europe and Asia, and we just started the US entity about 2.5 years ago. So it's a little bit the reverse. And My Teresa has really built the business in the US almost a little bit grassroots. Instead of going super big on brand marketing or performance marketing is obviously always running, our strategy has always been to meet our customers where they are. So when I had first started, we did a lot of work around where our potential customers are, and we went grassroots. So Arkansas, we could go on and on, but like Arkansas, Wyoming, Chicago, obviously in New York, California, Texas, Florida, but we went other places, like where we thought our customers were. Our business is approximately $1 billion. We actually trade on the New York Stock Exchange. That's another fun fact if you follow My Teresa. And the US business when we started was around 9% of the total business, and we're now about 20% of the total business. So it's growing, which is great. And I hope you all check us out later.
All right,
we have amazing product.
Yeah, so we had the prep call, and Heather was like right off the earnings call. She's like, "Oh, this was good stuff." You talked a little bit about, the luxury customers, pretty solid, pretty strong. Maybe the aspirational customer in markets around the world, maybe facing some headwinds. Has any of that changed? What are you seeing, both in the U.S. but also from your global partners?
So our top customer base is strong. It's a consumer that continues to purchase full price around the globe. What's changed a bit has been the consumer that had extra dollars, whether student loans were on hold or loans were on hold, and they were using what they referred to as disposable income to make a purchase. And those monies kind of disappeared. So if you look at consumers, we focus a lot on what we call the wardrobe consumer. So people who are buying, shirts, dresses, coats, etc., not just bags and shoes, like real people who fill their wardrobes with luxury wear. And what we've noticed, even when obviously there's a lot of tailwinds, but what we've noticed is when we focus on this consumer and don't try to be everything for everyone, it helps us win. So yes, there's a lot of challenges out in the market globally, but we had our earnings call in September, and the U.S. business was up 44%. And it's not like small numbers. So we're learning that our focusing on the consumer and our messaging again and again and again is working.
All right, well, congrats on building the brand here in the U.S., and we'll come back and dive a little bit more into that. So Colleen is a first-time speaker, and there's these times when you're building these programs and somebody just reaches out and say, "I'd love to speak." It's like the greatest thing, because it's not like you're chasing Michelle like we do every 6 months. Or NJ, who we chase on the West Coast all the time. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, and let's understand, again, UK-based brand coming into the US and other markets. Tell us a little bit about where you guys are selling, but hold off on the Canada-US story. We'll dive into that right after we finish the intros here.
That sounds great. So hi, everyone. My name is Colleen Conkling. I am Chief Marketing Officer at a brand called Papier. Which when we entered the U.S. market, one of the things I said is that a lot of people are going to call us Papier, so we need to create a funny video about saying papier, like French for paper, and that actually segues into what we sell. We make stationery, but we like to say that we're redefining the stationery category by making it relevant to the modern consumer. So we're taking a category which is traditionally seen maybe as sleepy, or like your grandma writes thank you notes on actual paper, and really redefining it. And this is a category that on aggregate is shrinking, and we are growing. And we're growing. We'll talk about the U.S. in a little bit, but we're looking at like 50% growth rate year over year for the last 3 years or so. And so we're doing this by taking paper and making it trendy, making it fashion forward, leaning into this idea that it's not just something that you scribble on, but it's truly a space to become. It's a wellness proposition. It's self-care. It's connecting with yourself. It's connecting with others. And it can be cool, and it can exist within a digital world or whatnot. So that's kind of our brand proposition. Just to tell you a little bit about the brand, we are slightly different. We're an earlier stage company. We completed our Series C about a year and a half ago. And we are a British-based company founded in 2015, where we are now DTC, and we are strategically figuring out how to go into different markets, which is really interesting because originally our brand proposition, especially for investors, this was amazing, is that it's print on demand. So if you go onto our site, one of our propositions is that our notebook can be personalized. And so we've gone on this journey now of not only how do you bring and diversify what your proposition is into different channels, but then how does that change as you go and you start to think about wholesale, B2B, other kind of partnerships, and how you source differently too.
Right. So we didn't feature D2C companies in the opening panel, so that was one reason we wanted to do this. Tell us a little bit, like you were talking about Australia. It's like you're there, we've had some people throughout the morning and throughout the last couple of events say, hey, we've had to pull back on some international markets. But now you guys are revisiting that decision, or am I speaking out of turn here?
No, you're definitely not speaking out of turn. So I think that there's a couple things at play there. So first of all, prior to when I joined, which was a little over a year ago, there was this real push of like, hey, we need to focus and maniacally focus, and we're really going to win in the US. We had been in Australia. We pulled out of Australia because we felt like we needed to focus as much as possible. And again, going back to our personalization element, the way that the business had operated before as a direct-to-consumer business, we had to build a whole network and an army of local printers that could print on demand and get our product in the marketplace. What we've realized is that there's still a demand for our products. Not all of them have to be personalized, and we can think about our supply chain and sourcing in different ways. And so there is an opportunity to look to different countries like China, et cetera, where we can source products that might not have that personalization element, where there might be an opportunity to gain some kind of shipping benefits in terms of how we reach different countries. And so we actually reversed the decision and said we can expand into other countries, go back into Australia with a different kind of business model, while still growing in the US and other countries like Canada and beyond. We're actually going to be launching again in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, in the next month, and then we have the rest of Europe back on the roadmap for next year as well.
Got it. So again, in the early session, we talked a lot about pricing. We want to talk a little bit more about product here. But again, tell us what this wholesale first push into the U.S. and Canada is like. I know it's been done in partnerships with a couple of pretty well-known retailers. So tell us more about that journey.
Yeah, so I'd say that like similar to My Teresa in some ways, we've thought about, we're a smaller brand, we have smaller budgets. So how do you gain brand traction? And then how do you also test markets? So let me tell you about the US first. So we actually did launch in the US with a D2C proposition, but we knew that we're not going to gain that kind of traction and brand awareness unless we thought bigger. And so we've actually identified wholesale partners within the US to catalyze our business, not just from a sales perspective and like number of doors and reach perspective, but also from a brand awareness and brand equity perspective. So we launched with our first big wholesale partner in the US was Anthropologie, but previous to that, we launched with boutique retailers because we knew that if we got into boutique retailers and could say, look at this cool brand, that discovery element, the kind of word of mouth element, and how do we activate with them with events and influencer partnerships and thinking locally, it really allowed us to catalyze that brand awareness in a way that we hadn't seen in the year before that. Launching off of that, we realized that there is something interesting to be said about building demand within a marketplace first with a name that's already known. So for Canada in particular, which we just launched into about a month and a half ago, we actually went wholesale first. And we went wholesale with a particular partner, Indigo, that already had brand awareness and traction within the space, was known for being innovative, is known for being trend-driven, et cetera, That allows our brand to get in front of the marketplace. It allows us to build that demand and pretty much test the waters to justify whether or not we want to put the spend in to build out the digital marketplace that we would need to in order to reach the Canadian consumer, especially when you think about our DTC proposition and how we would need to kind of build that network of printers in order to print on demand. We can do some of that from the US, but there are some shipping limitations as well. So TBC, watch this space, on if that strategy works really well, but it has started to have us think differently about how we potentially could go into the Far East, for example, and some partners in Korea or China or Japan where we're getting a lot of interest, is that really having that local knowledge and that brand equity that you can draft off of a wholesale partner, we think is the best way to build demand in that marketplace before launching your D2C proposition there.
So was there anything different between the US partner and the Canada partner, or was it almost cookie cutter? And I bring that up because the afternoon we're doing some of these when cookie cutter strategies work and when they don't, and more often than not, they don't. But any big differences between your partnership between the US and Canada?
Yeah, well, none of our partners are cookie cutters. I think that one of the reasons why it's working for us, and it's part because we are a small and nimble brand, is that we're able to build custom products and custom launch plans with each of our partners. So one of the benefits of having a massive in-house design team and creating notebooks that have lots of different covers and whatnot is that, and a lot of it print on demand, is that we can actually tailor our offerings to each of our partners. And so with thinking about Anthropologie, it's going in and saying, well, what are the kind of products that you need, as opposed to look at our catalog and what do you want to buy? And, they can come to us and they say, well, we want an alphabet line, we want a Zodiac line, and we can put a Papier spin on that, particularly for Anthropologie. So everything becomes exclusive in some ways. And the same thing for our Indigo partnership, and that we're actually leaning into more of their desire to have more events and connect more with the community there as well. And so it's a marketing strategy and a product strategy that is tailored to each unique partner.
So NJ, another digital-first brand, but starting to find a lot of traction with your international wholesalers. So walk us through a little bit of how that's happened. You've talked a lot about digital being so good for consumer discovery, and yet it's really your consumers in markets like the Middle East that are kind of, helping your trademark or your trade partners find you.
Absolutely. I think it's actually two things. One, we've started to see a lot of wholesale grow through our D2C because people are discovering our brand through D2C and we are shipping internationally, but also because we're in these locations, with the Grove that has such a international audience, they stop by our store. Actually, retailers and buyers are in the store. We don't even realize it. And then they buy the product, go back to their country, and then the demand starts to grow organically from these countries. So we've been seeing that now, especially in Europe and the Middle East. So the retail and the D2C are actually helping drive the wholesale business, and I think that will happen even more when we open up at 75 Prince Street because it's in a highly trafficked area. I know, plug. And
where was that on Prince Street again?
Next to the Equinox.
Okay. So the vetting process, again, you guys are, very high-end product. I guess it's not just any wholesaler. And again, are they self-selecting for the most part, or is there some sort of team that's having to do some vetting and, telling some people no?
We definitely get approached by wholesalers around the world, in the United States and around the world, and we actually look to find best-in-class luxury partners that really understand our brand because we're so performance-driven. We're about design innovation, and we have a higher AOV than a lot of other performance brands and athletic brands. So it's really got to be the right marriage for both of us, and we want to be with like-minded wholesalers and other brands that are in the similar category, and that we're being merchandised properly online and in store. So it has to be a good marriage.
Right, so it's like, look at us online. If you can duplicate that in store, well, then maybe we'll talk. But
Yeah, and obviously it's a mutual conversation, but also I think because we also have a partnership now with the Oracle Red Bull racing team, and we were with McLaren, and we sold out basically every McLaren shoe that we had done exclusively with them, and now we're building this partnership with Red Bull and sold out the first exclusive grouping that we did, and there's much more to come in the coming year. And also, I mean, F1 has taken off globally,
Right.
and we use supercars as innovation for a lot of our inspiration for a lot of our designs. So it's a natural synergistic relationship.
So again, the combination of the consumer engagement direct through the D2C and the retail partnership. So Heather, I think when we talked back in June, you were the one like, it's all about letting the consumers drive the conversation. And so of course I like picked that up and, you know, claimed it as my own for the rest of the prep calls. But you were spot on there, and you guys are doing things a little bit differently. There's more of that one-to-one activation. There's the PR. Just walk us through a little bit of you know, kind of how you are maybe revisiting, you know, the digital first of the D2C. It's certainly not putting it to the side, but realizing it's just part of the puzzle.
So I'm a big, huge believer that it's one funnel, one consumer. All the messages go through the same space. You have one brain. So people engage with your brand. They start their journey with your brand in different places. Some are looking for a pair of black pumps and they find your brand. Others are sitting at a dinner table and someone's wearing something and they ask, oh, what are those, right? So everyone starts their journey differently. So I don't think it's a digital or non-digital conversation. I think it's where is the consumer conversation. So we obviously have a very robust performance marketing team and they do amazing work, and we do a lot of work as well with really engaging with consumers on the ground. So I'll give an example. Somebody coined a phrase for us called affluencers. So affluent influencers. So take out of your mind for a moment what an influencer is today in the world that we live in. But everyone here is an influencer. Everyone has friends. You influence your friends. So when we go into communities, we always are looking for affluencers to do different activations with, whether it's a shopping event and tying it back to their charity. We do a lot of charity events, but hosted by women and men who can bring in their communities and introduce them to our business. So that is one of the strategies that we do that's been working really well in communities that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to enter.
So Barbara, in her final piece of advice was, you know, basically follow the data, let the customer data. I know you guys have been looking at the data and you ended up in an old garage on the Hamptons or something like that.
Oh, this is amazing. So we wanted to, since I started at My Teresa, I had my eyes on East Hampton. And there's a wonderful real estate agent who kept sending me wonderful boxes to put our products in. Standard retail space. And I kept explaining to him, like, no, that's not what I want. It's got to be interesting. We have to offer an experience. And literally as a joke, he sent me an old auto body shop. If you look online, you can see photos of this. Mold, asbestos, wires hanging down. Literally, you walked in there. No one had been in there in 2.5 years. And he sent it to me, and I said, can we go out tomorrow? So we went out to the East Hampton the next day. He thought I was kidding, by the way. We went out there, and I contacted one of the most creative people I know who owns a company, Flamingo Estate, and I said, do you want to do this together? I really think there's something about this old auto body shop. We're a luxury brand. We brought people into an experience that had no air conditioning in the heat of the summer in East Hampton. It was so viral on social media, and I knew it would be good. I didn't think it would be that good. Literally, people were sweating. Don't worry, we're going to make it better if you were there. We're going to make it better this summer, so not everyone's sweating. But these experiences, so people came in, and honestly, we painted the walls and the floor. We put product on muffler racks, and we leaned into the old auto body. So there was a car in the middle. There was products on muffler racks. There were tires in the backs, products on tires, just leaned in. And it became an experience that people started telling each other. So every week, people who lived there would bring their guests there to come see it. And the one thing about data I will say, is that in order to enter the space, you had to give us your first name, last name, email, and mobile. You had to give us your information, and we created an Apple Pass because that, for us, like customer data, is a currency. It's the most important currency you could have. So that, yes, we did that in East Hampton. It was fun, and we met wonderful people who are shopping.
And you had the incredible holiday party at Flamingo Estates in LA, so I can vouch.
So we know each
Is this
other?
an open invite to everyone here?
Yes.
Only if you come to GELF LA in mid-February. Colleen, one of the things we talked about, kind of along this whole idea of, let the data get to personalized products. But one of the challenges, that has always come up in these conversations is the channel conflict. So this whole idea of being able to use exclusive product to get around some of that channel conflict. We've only got a little bit of time left here, but just kind of wrap up a little bit with, what you guys have been seeing there and how that's worked.
Yeah, I'll go really quick. I think that Papier is in a very unique position here, and I kind of touched on this in my previous comments, is that if you can figure out how to do custom in an easy, turnkey way, it prevents a lot of channel conflict and allows you to keep your pricing at parity. So we have a very, very clear omni-channel strategy that allows our D2C to lean more into personalization, to lean more into premiumization, the long tail of product. And then we're able to go out to each of our wholesale partners with custom lines, custom designs, et cetera, because we built our proposition that way. And I know that that's not as easy for retailers where you might be sourcing most of your products from other countries or whatnot, and there's different MOQs or whatnot. But if you can unlock that kind of customization, it prevents channel conflicts. So we have retailers like knocking down the doors to work at us. We're launching with Barnes & Noble and Papersource this week. We have a couple of other really big partners that we're launching with. We launched with Selfridges in the UK last week as well. And we're able to provide something custom to each of them, whether that be an actual exclusive, like our advent calendar for Selfridges in the UK, or it be a custom line with Anthropologie, like the letter line, and we're doing an entire exclusive line with them starting at the beginning of the year. That's how you can unlock keeping your pricing, your margins, and reducing that channel conflict in the best way possible.
All right, I'm going to ask all you guys to come up with one bit of advice, but while you're thinking, because I just sprang that on you, any questions, anything from the audience? Anybody have comments? Okay, so we'll wrap up. Let's see, Heather, you're down there. You're the affluencer, which is the new term of the day. Any one takeaway from, again, the whole idea of the importance of building brands by doing more of a blended approach to a market?
I think it's really get out there and meet your customer. I think it's really hard and difficult and more challenging. So if you're opening in a new market, go meet the customer, because they know. Like, we think we know because we read reports, but we don't really know. They know. They live there. They shop there. So my biggest thing is really make a phone call. I call customers all the time, by the way. Just call them and ask them, what do you think about this? Or do you have any thoughts about that? It'd be shocking to know the ideas they have for you. So that's my one piece of advice.
Well, NJ, you're the queen of conversational commerce, so I'm imagining. In fact, NJ picks up the phone constantly at the customer service desk.
That's true, and I do have a secret customer service name, which I'm not going to tell you. And
Natasha.
Nope, not even close. And I'm on the desk literally every day. And I'm also in the conversations so that we're getting the firsthand knowledge. And also I have to agree totally, I'm in violent agreement with Heather on capturing data in store, online, and using that to have this whole conversation on all these different channels. The other thing that we did, and we did this during the pandemic and carried this over, was train our entire store team and now the new team. They are on chat and on the desk every day. So because they're product experts, also speaking to our consumers, and we're having those conversations internally twice a week on really quick calls, sharing what we're learning so that we can bring that more to the company and across all our different channels.
All right, Colleen, we're a few minutes over, but take it home for us.
Yeah, on the topic of choosing your retail partners, this seems kind of like duh, but you are the company you keep. Choose your retail partners wisely, especially if you are going to launch into a new country with a retail partner. Come to them with innovative ideas. Ensure that they want to activate with you innovatively, especially if you're a brand like Papier, where we are all brand. If you don't activate your brand and work with partners that are going to see that and elevate that and speak to their consumers and connect with the markets in that way, you won't build your brand in that effective way. And for us, we'll just be another pretty notebook on a shelf, which is what we don't want. So that would be my advice about if you're going to go into an international market with a wholesale partner first and foremost.
Okay, Colleen, Heather, and Jay, thank you guys so much. That was great. Again, conversation starts here, goes throughout the day. I'm going to ask our next group to come on up, but thank you guys.